Mr. Speaker, it is with a sense of purpose and a commitment to the task that I rise to make this my maiden presentation in the sectoral debate as Minister of Science, Energy and Technology. Let me take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to commend you on your elevation to the Speaker's chair. I have every confidence that you will be as judicious, impartial, and professional in the discharge of your responsibilities as the position requires. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has demonstrated the confidence he reposes in me by entrusting this critical portfolio to me, and for that I am humbled and grateful. Mr. Speaker, I must also take this opportunity to specially recognize my family, and in particular my daughter Aliyah, who is here on a study break from university in London, and her siblings who are currently doing exams. I would like to also, Mr. Speaker, recognize my constituents, the industrious and resilient men and women of South Central St. Catherine. Mr. Speaker, they are my extended family. They have stuck with me and have renewed my mandate to represent them. Today, I use this opportunity to publicly thank them for their role in delivering victory to the Jamaica Labour Party. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to recognize my cabinet colleagues and members of this honorable House. My three councillors, Councillor Owen Palmer, Councillor Jennifer Hull, and Councillor Arthur Thompson. I would like to also recognize other members of my personal and support staff, my advisors, the hard-working permanent secretary and the team at the ministry, who since I assumed office in March of this year have given me their unwavering support. I wish to also thank the various heads of agencies and divisions within the ministry, as well as the new chairpersons and directors of the state boards falling under the ministry, who have hit the ground running since their appointment. Mr. Speaker, I must register my gratitude to the former minister, the member from East Kingston and Port Royal, as well as the former Minister of State, the member from South East St. Andrew, and the personnel who piloted various programs and initiatives aimed at advancing science, energy, and technology. Mr. Speaker, science, energy, and technology are extremely important to national development. Their potential to impact our development by generating increased economic growth and job creation cannot be overemphasized. Mr. Speaker, I've come to this important office with a clear sense of what is required and where we intend to go in moving our people from poverty to prosperity. Mr. Speaker, I am not inhibited by the vestiges or politics of the past. Upon taking office, my team and I carefully examined existing programs. Mr. Speaker, political maturity and good sense compel me to retain, tweak, improve, and expand where necessary programs that make eminent sense and reconsider or recast those that don't. We on this side, Mr. Speaker, are not in the business of self-aggrandizement or political immaturity. We are not in the business of discounting programs or discontinuing programs simply because they were introduced by the previous administration. My presentation today, Mr. Speaker, heralds the beginning of a new discourse, a much-needed discussion that centers on advancing three key areas of national development and prosperity for our nation. And these three areas, Mr. Speaker, form the pillar of my portfolio responsibility: science, energy, and Technology. Mr. Speaker, my presentation today will take a slightly different slant from the type to which we have long become accustomed in this Honourable House. I will not be expending too much energy on a laborious presentation that takes us through the facts, figures, and performance of the various agencies within the ministry's portfolio. These, Mr. Speaker, are detailed in the ministry papers which I now lay before the House. Along that vein, Mr. Speaker, I wish to table the ministry papers which capture the agency's plans and programs for the financial year 2016-17 and the highlights of the ministry's policies, programs, and achievements for the review period 2015-16. Mr. Speaker, I have made it clear, and the ministry is very clear, that it will not be a part of the business-as-usual culture. It will not be a part of the premature and excessive announcements or projects started that cannot be completed culture, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I find that we tend to celebrate announcements when we should really be celebrating achievements. Under my stewardship, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology will adopt a can-do culture in which all plans and projections are actualized and the initiatives and projects entered into are successfully completed. Mr. Speaker, on assuming office, a careful inventory of the energy sector by the incoming administration was very revealing. We found that significant progress has been made in a collection of areas within the energy sector. But, Mr. Speaker, the state's energy infrastructure was still not enabling the economic growth for all practical purposes. Mr. Speaker, while historically sections of our country received electricity even before the United States, we have remained vulnerable to price shocks and unwieldy energy intensity and insufficient value creation from the very expensive commodities we consume. Mr. Speaker, this suggests the absence of a strategic team grounded by a vision of what is expected from energy. Mr. Speaker, it is necessary that we come to terms with the role and purpose of energy. Mr. Speaker, energy is a wherewithal in furtherance of a greater purpose and objective. A production platform that engenders, Mr. Speaker, and yields competitiveness, growth, and development. Mr. Speaker, everything we do by way of the national energy policy must pass the litmus test. The litmus test, Mr. Speaker, of how it improves GDP as a result of a greater energy-efficient economy. The challenge before us is therefore very clear, and surmounting it requires an even clearer vision. Mr. Speaker, MSET envisions a fit-for-purpose energy architecture that is a part of the production platform that can deliver the economic growth and inclusive development required by our people. This vision, Mr. Speaker, creates a call to action, and energy matters can no longer be talk. With oil prices set to rise again and with the impacts of fossil fuels on the environment staring us starkly in our face, the time for talk has long passed. We must take action at this time, Mr. Speaker. And the opportunity for action is now before us. This administration, Mr. Speaker, will deliver on its commitments. The commitment to create a competitive energy environment. The commitment to modernize the nation's power generation. The commitment to diversify energy sources with a strong emphasis on renewables. A commitment, Mr. Speaker, to overhaul all regulations to create a true 21st century framework combined with newer and relevant institutions. A commitment, Mr. Speaker, to transform the energy efficiency of the Jamaican economy to include, among other things, world-class conservation techniques. A commitment, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that the national energy policy as part of the economic growth model addresses socio-economic issues to create inclusiveness in our development. A commitment, Mr. Speaker, to manage our carbon footprint, to preserve Jamaica's natural environment and fulfill our international agreements and obligations. A commitment, Mr. Speaker, to set targets for the reduction of national demand for energy over a 5-year period. A commitment, Mr. Speaker, to usher in a green energy economy. A commitment again, Mr. Speaker, to revise the refinery reference pricing system and JPS fuel pass-through to ensure in a transparent fashion that Jamaican consumers enjoy the best prices for energy supplies, be it petroleum products or electricity. Mr. Speaker, the time has come for monumental and seismic shift, which will require serious actions to set us on a path for prosperity, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, the program MSET activities for the 2016-2017 cycle will include the following. We will be looking to finalize in short order a license and power purchase agreement with 8 Rivers Energy Company to supply 33 megawatts of solar energy to the grid at US 8.5 cents per kilowatt hour. Mr. Speaker, that's the lowest price in Jamaica's history. This project, Mr. Speaker, will be located in Negril, Westmoreland, and will have an investment of US $50 million and will employ approximately 200 persons during construction and some 50 permanent employees. Construction is slated to start, Mr. Speaker, in 2016-17, and first supply to the grid will be in 2018. Mr. Speaker, this is how we get set for prosperity. Mr. Speaker, the commissioning of a 20-megawatt photovoltaic plant by WRB Limited at Content, Clarendon, with capital investment of US $65 million, and the BMR wind farm at Monroe in St. Elizabeth will happen in just a few weeks, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the BMR project will supply 36 megawatts with a capital investment of US $78 million. Mr. Speaker, together, Content Solar, BMR, and the recently commissioned Wigton 3 24-megawatt wind farm will add over 80 megawatts of renewables to the energy mix. Mr. Speaker, that will be putting us on track to having 15% renewable capacity for the grid or to the grid in 2020. God bless inheritance. Mr. Speaker, government will return to the markets with another RFP. Mr. Speaker, government will return to the markets with another RFP for 100 megawatts of renewables during the course of this year. Mr. Speaker, we will also seek an additional 50 megawatts in a separate waste-to-energy RFP. And I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, that the turnaround time for this particular tranche of generation procurement will be quick. Mr. Speaker, these are key moves towards the diversified energy mix and a competitive supply. Mr. Speaker, this will enable us to deliver 30% of the generation to the grid from renewables in 2013, or what we would want to call, Mr. Speaker, our 30 in 30 mission. Mr. Speaker, I put it to you, this is how we get set for prosperity. Mr. Speaker, I want to introduce to Parliament the SILK initiative, which stands for street lighting, installations, loss reduction, and community renewal. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that all of us here will agree that light is life. Mr. Speaker, our social fabric is challenged in too many dimensions when our people are, for whatsoever reason, without electricity. Aimed at civic and security improvements, safety protection, loss reduction, and affordability to our communities, the Silk Project, Mr. Speaker, will build on existing initiatives between JPS, NESOL, JSIF, and MSET. Mr. Speaker, a total of $1.25 billion is being earmarked in 2016-17 to energizing the lives of people in 25 communities, Mr. Speaker. Communities in the parishes of St. James, St. Catherine, Kingston, and St. Andrew. Mr. Speaker, we on this side, Mr. Speaker, will bring these communities into the light and give them a better quality of life, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is how we get set for prosperity. Mr. Speaker, another priority of this administration entails policy improvements in overhauling the electricity, petroleum quality control, petroleum acts, and their related regulations and licensing processes. This, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that we are able to support investments, competition, and consumer protection. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, the ministry will lead by example in its rollout of an integrated resource plan. This integrated resource plan, Mr. Speaker, will ensure a reliable electricity sector that recognizes the needs, technologies, and systems required for covering generation, transmission, distribution, supply, and dispatch. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to supervise the project's developments for all licenses issued for generation replacement in Bogue and Old Harbour, as well as to Jamalco and Alpart, Mr. Speaker. The administrative structures required by law for a generation procurement entity will similarly be implemented. Mr. Speaker, this again is how we get set for prosperity. Mr. Speaker, there are some moments in life where there is an assumption of duty. And with that duty, Mr. Speaker, an inheritance of responsibility. When I assumed responsibility for the energy portfolio, Mr. Speaker, I inherited a major dilemma of contaminated gas that had been plaguing the country's petroleum sector. The findings of the Petroleum Trade Reform Committee were disappointingly inconclusive in identifying the source and cause of substandard products which enter the trade. Mr. Speaker, the committee identified several gaping holes in the sector's modus operandi, particularly, Mr. Speaker, as it relates to the chain of custody of petroleum products, as well as with the operating standards and arrangements throughout the distributive trade. Mr. Speaker, a number of recommendations were made by the committee, and these will be primarily addressed by new legislations and regulations which are currently being developed as a matter of priority and urgency. Mr. Speaker, let me also make particular mention about consumer compensation. The matter of redress for affected consumers is being pursued by the Consumer Affairs Commission, which has claims totaling some $25 million. Mr. Speaker, the government remains resolute in our commitment to ensure that measures are in place to protect consumers. I am pleased, Mr. Speaker, to see the sense of responsibility and maturity being demonstrated by all players in the market who are volunteering to make their customers whole. In summary, Mr. Speaker, we will do everything in our power to ensure that this sort of thing never happens again by taking the following measures. We will, Mr. Speaker, re-establish a fully staffed petroleum inspectorate under the purview of the ministry to, among other things, regulate, oversee, and monitor the petroleum sector and process the granting of licenses and renewals. Mr. Speaker, we will amend legislation to strengthen the stewardship requirements for importing and distributing petroleum products. Mr. Speaker, we will introduce significantly stricter licensing conditions for all players in the sector and implement a more rigorous testing regime for fuel. Mr. Speaker, one of the first major achievements of this administration in the energy sector has been the reinstatement of net billing. In the 2 months since the program has restarted, there have been over 90 applications, and I have granted more than 30 net billing licenses to date. Mr. Speaker, this is how we get ourselves set for prosperity, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Development Bank of Jamaica will expand the line of credit to facilitate investments in renewable energy by micro, small, and medium enterprises. MSEP, Mr. Speaker, has provided an additional $1 million, bringing the total disbursement available to $5.6 million. Several entities have already benefited from this line of credit, Mr. Speaker, and they are reporting significant reduction in their electricity consumption and improvements in their productivity. Again, Mr. Speaker, this is how we get set for prosperity. Mr. Speaker, the removal of duties and GCT from several energy efficient and renewable energy technologies and devices is making it easier for consumers to take control of their electricity demand and cost, Mr. Speaker. We will be working with the stakeholders, including my colleague Minister from the Ministry of Finance, to consider additional measures to expand these opportunities. In fact, Mr. Speaker, we are already seeing electric cars on the island, and this may very well be a way to start the transformation of the transportation sector. Mr. Speaker, as a scientist, I appreciate research. Research work in alternative and supplemental biofuel feedstocks will be used to expand the country's energy options, creating backward and forward linkages with the agricultural sector, create jobs, Mr. Speaker, and resuscitate rural socio-economic development. Mr. Speaker, energy services companies is a developing sector with tremendous opportunity for job creation and productivity improvement. These companies, Mr. Speaker, provide turnkey energy solutions for their clients. Access to finance, Mr. Speaker, remains a challenge, but MSET will work with the relevant stakeholders, including the PCJ, to support this development for public sector buildings such as schools and hospitals. This year, Mr. Speaker, the PCJ will continue with the development of solar projects. One example of this, Mr. Speaker, is the Jamaica Defence Force Pedro K's off-grid system. It is estimated that a capital cost of Jamaica $50 million will be needed. The proposed annual energy savings to be realized will be in the order of 17 megawatts per hour, and proposed annual cost saving at Jamaica $12 million per annum. All work, Mr. Speaker, to be done by local contractors. Mr. Speaker, another example is the retrofitting of the Development Bank of Jamaica. Here, Mr. Speaker, we are looking at an estimated capital cost of 45 million Jamaican dollars, with a proposed annual energy saving of 201 megawatts per hour, a proposed annual savings in terms of Jamaican dollars, $6.2 million, Mr. Speaker. And again, Mr. Speaker, all work to be done by local contractors. Mr. Speaker, this is how we get set for prosperity. Mr. Speaker, energy conservation and efficiency are now key parts of our energy strategy. The Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica has now assumed responsibilities for all EEC projects. This, Mr. Speaker, is part of MSET's reorganization for effectiveness and seamlessness in its business processes. All related projects, Mr. Speaker, will promote eco-efficiency and the green economy. We intend to achieve this, Mr. Speaker, by encouraging energy efficiency and conservation in government agencies, developing the capacity of local companies to meet international environmental standards, and promoting, Mr. Speaker, green jobs and green industries. Mr. Speaker, the PCJ will continue retrofittings for energy efficiency and conservation in public sector and other buildings. To this end, Mr. Speaker, 2016-17 will see the rollout of UNDP IDB supported projects targeting 50 schools, hospitals, government institutions island-wide. Mr. Speaker, this will represent a total capital expenditure of US $50 million for a proposed annual energy savings of 27,000 megawatts per hour and cost saving of US $6.7 million per annum. Most importantly, again, Mr. Speaker, all work is to be completed using local suppliers and labor over the 3 to 4 years of this project. I now put to you again, Mr. Speaker, that this is how we get set for prosperity. Mr. Speaker, in every endeavor, from sports to business, industry, academia, and administration, there comes a time when one has to lift his or her game to meet the challenge that is being confronted. Our present challenge, Mr. Speaker, is to be competitive with our trading partners who are generating at between US 5 to 10 cents per kilowatt hour for electricity. Mr. Speaker, we have to take bold steps and pursue a plan beyond the easy in order to get into this range. Mr. Speaker, we should not be afraid because we have already drawn that line in the sand with the 8 River solar projects at 8.5 cents. Going forward, Mr. Speaker, this ministry will push an ambitious agenda. One, Mr. Speaker, which is achievable. One which is achievable through the following initiatives aimed at creating affordable and competitive energy. Initiatives such as the development of production clusters, Mr. Speaker, as the one that is being proposed for the Cayman area. Initiatives, Mr. Speaker, that seeks to invest in research and development. Initiatives, Mr. Speaker, that seeks to look at hydroelectricity. Initiative that seeks to look at ethanol and sugarcane recovery, LNG, smart grid roadmap, oil and gas exploration, and last but not least, Mr. Speaker, grid code regulations. Mr. Speaker, recently I participated with the leaders of the region in the United States, Central America, Caribbean Energy Summit, which launched the results of the Energy Task Force for the Caribbean and Central America, which were announced by President Obama last year, and identified steps that the United States and regional leaders can take to ensure that citizens of these regions achieve a more secure, affordable, and clean energy future. Mr. Speaker, we at the Ministry recognize that we have the potential to fuel growth by creating a policy and legislative framework that facilitates investments from local and international spheres. We therefore intend, Mr. Speaker, to make Jamaica a regional leader in energy, build on the successes made thus far, and through the implementation, Mr. Speaker, of even bolder initiatives, improve the lives of every Jamaican and secure brighter prospects for future generations. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to the second pillar of the portfolio, ICT. As I have said many times before, Mr. Speaker, this administration firmly believes that technology is the catalyst for the enablement of economic growth and prosperity. Accordingly, Mr. Speaker, we are the first administration to put forward a definitive 10-point plan for ICT. Mr. Speaker, we campaigned on it, and we intend to deliver on that plan. It is our roadmap, Mr. Speaker, and it is the benchmark by which we will be judged. Mr. Speaker, allow me to highlight the priority components of our 10-point plan for this year and explain how these form a recipe which will make us set for prosperity. Mr. Speaker, this year's priority components of the ICT 10-point plan are as follows. 1, Mr. Speaker, to establish true universal access by providing free internet access to essential government and educational services for every citizen. To make Jamaica, Mr. Speaker, the Caribbean's leading producer of technology, not just consumers of technology. And we intend to do this, Mr. Speaker, by creating a technology innovation fund to provide sustainable financing of technology-based projects and startups. The third point, Mr. Speaker, is that we intend to work closely with the Ministry of Education to ensure holistic, efficient, and effective use of technology to support teaching and learning, as well as improved education administration throughout the system. The fourth point, Mr. Speaker, is that we intend to collaborate closely with the new Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation to broaden support for BPO beyond just call center services, so employment opportunities for university graduates and professionals are expanded. Mr. Speaker, our fifth point is that we intend to drive better ICT governance practices throughout the government to make it more efficient and make information more accessible, including use of the core of young people trained through the National Service Program and National Apprenticeship Program. The sixth point, Mr. Speaker, is that we will repeal the 16-year-old Telecommunications Act and replace it with a new ICT Act. Harmonize all relevant ICT legislation, Mr. Speaker, to ensure cohesion across the regulatory elements of ICT to create a more modern fit-for-purpose framework, including, Mr. Speaker, the creation of a single ICT regulator. The seventh point for this year, Mr. Speaker, is that we intend to promulgate and pass into law legislation that deals with data protection. Mr. Speaker, I have long held the view that there is no reason for any Jamaican to pay for access to essential online government services. Some of us, Mr. Speaker, would say that citizens can already freely use these services. But there is a distinction, Mr. Speaker, between access and use. Currently, Mr. Speaker, use is free. Access is not. Mr. Speaker, we believe that removing these barriers to access to essential government services and educational material for every citizen will have far-reaching benefits. We believe, Mr. Speaker, that this will spur the development of citizen-to-government mobile apps. It will, Mr. Speaker, boost interaction between government and citizens. Mr. Speaker, we believe that it will broaden the tax net and improve collections, since access will now be easier and more convenient. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, we believe and we know that students will be able to access various content and learning materials provided by the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information at home. Mr. Speaker, this will boost the benefits that can be derived from greater use of technology in education. The means, Mr. Speaker, and technology to do this are already available. Everyone with a smartphone is already connected to the network, Mr. Speaker. Most smartphones have hotspot capabilities, so that anytime, anywhere access is there. Mr. Speaker, we will create true universal access, enabling citizens to be able to access government websites at no cost. As I stand here today, Mr. Speaker, I take this opportunity to inform this Honorable House and the Jamaican people that this is no longer just a concept. After a number of discussions, Mr. Speaker, with the major service providers, they have assured me that within the next couple of weeks, there will be zero rate across all Government of Jamaica sites, services, and Ministry of Education content. In fact, Mr. Speaker, a list was just presented to me where at this very moment, Mr. Speaker, one of our major telecom partners, Digicel, they have now zero rated at this moment 34 sites to date. Mr. Speaker, these government sites include the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology, the Ministry of Transport and Mining, the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, the Ministry of National Security, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, the Ministry of Justice, Office of the Cabinet, Office of the Prime Minister, Passport, Immigration and Citizenship, Registrar General's Department, Office of Director of Public Prosecutions, Attorney General's Department, Mr. Speaker, Access to Information Unit, University Hospital of the West Indies, Jamaica Information Service, Jamaica Constabulary Force, Jamaica Fire Brigade, Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, Jamaica Custom Agency, National Housing Trust, Student Loan Bureau, National Health Fund, Development Bank of Jamaica, Companies Office of Jamaica, Planning Institute of Jamaica, Jamaica Urban Transport Company, E-Learning Jamaica, National Water Commission, Office of Utilities Regulation, and Spectrum Management Authority. What this means, Mr. Speaker, What this means, Mr. Speaker, is even if your credit is done, if your data plan is exhausted, or if your data package at home is in arrears, Jamaicans will be able to access key Government of Jamaica sites, services, and Ministry of Education content to pay taxes, apply for birth certificates, and access educational materials online for free, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I put it to you and this honorable House. This is how you get prosperity. Obviously, Mr. Speaker, with the over 200 sites and services that the Government of Jamaica has, it won't be possible to provide access to these sites and services all at once. And so, Mr. Speaker, in keeping with the trend set by my colleague, the Minister of Finance, we will phase it in. But I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, based on the rate at which we are going, that phasing in process will be very swift. Mr. Speaker, we intend to work closely with the Ministry of Education, Youth and Culture to ensure holistic, efficient and effective use of technology. This, Mr. Speaker, will be done through the support of teaching and learning and improved education administration throughout the system. This component, Mr. Speaker, will be executed in a large part through the e-learning program, with a major part being the Tablets in School project. Let me take a moment, Mr. Speaker, to extend my gratitude to the e-Learning Jamaica team and all relevant stakeholders for the work done to date on the pilot Tablets in School project. Their continued commitment to work collaboratively to ensure the successful implementation of the Tablets in School project has not gone unnoticed. Mr. Speaker, let me state here and now that the Tablets in School project is here to stay. But it is time to move out of the pilot phase and look to implement the next phase of this project. Mr. Speaker, a comprehensive review of the Tablet in School pilot project was done, and we intend to move forward with a restructured version of this project based on lessons learned. Mr. Speaker, I will give more details of this in coming days. Mr. Speaker, my ministry will collaborate closely with the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation to broaden support for business process outsourcing beyond just call centers. I have recently heard comments, Mr. Speaker, from the chairman of EPOC confirming exactly what we have been proposing for some time now. And I am encouraged by the support, Mr. Speaker, that we are getting for our idea of expanding BPO. Mr. Speaker, we must actively promote broadening the BPO ICT sector and services beyond the traditional customer service call center. The talents and capabilities of our people extend way beyond the routine handling of customer service calls. We must, Mr. Speaker, advance, foster and create the environment for more sophisticated services and provide more opportunities for secondary and tertiary graduates in creating a highly skilled and competitive knowledge-based society. So, Mr. Speaker, today I'm calling on the major groups in the education, BPO and ICT sectors to ensure that we move beyond the traditional BPO sector. Mr. Speaker, I want to mention here the government's push to implement a new initiative, one that I call BIG, Mr. Speaker, BIG, and that stands for BPO in government. Because it is just that, Mr. Speaker. This is shared services with a twist, Mr. Speaker. What it entails is the creation of a BPO entity within government that will in effect act as a centralized provider for common or shared tasks within government. For example, Mr. Speaker, services such as data entry, paper to digital backfile conversion, operator services, call routing and specific services which fall under the corporate services umbrella. This approach, Mr. Speaker, will accelerate the Government of Jamaica digitization process.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the member's time be extended by 5 minutes to conclude his presentation.
The question is that the minister's time be extended by 5 minutes. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes of it. Minister Wheatley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, colleagues. Mr. Speaker, as I was saying that we will be embarking on the big project, the BPO in government project. Mr. Speaker, I will provide more information on big at a later date. Mr. Speaker, another program that is slated to provide significant opportunities for young people is the Youth Employment in the Digital and Animation Industries, YEDI project. It's a joint partnership between the Government of Jamaica, the World Bank and local private sector stakeholders, Jamaica National Building Society and FLOW. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, a very special thank you to our private sector stakeholders for the continued support they have given to this project. And I certainly look forward to their continued support. Mr. Speaker, the YEDI project seeks to build the capacity and skills of Jamaican youth to improve their employability in the nascent animation industry, as well as provide critical skills to the young tech entrepreneurs to bring ideas to market. Mr. Speaker, let me admit a certain degree of disappointment with what I found on assuming office as it relates to the way this project was being managed. Mr. Speaker, parts of this project had gone off track and was under threat of losing its funding. Since assuming office, Mr. Speaker, we have taken immediate actions to rescue this project and are putting the necessary structures and framework in place to ensure the proper management and desired outcomes of this project. Mr. Speaker, there's much to say, but I want to just, because of the time constraint, just mention that the Government of Jamaica this Friday will be launching the Government of Jamaica Open Data Portal. And again, Mr. Speaker, this is something that we believe will drive investment and growth in our country as part of our initiative to ensure that Jamaica attains prosperity. Mr. Speaker, cybersecurity is another key aspect where the government has to pay special attention. Over the last 2 years, Mr. Speaker, numerous government websites have seen an increase in the number of cyber attacks, including defacements, denial of service, and more recently, spear phishing and ransomware. In some cases, Mr. Speaker, critical systems have been taken offline in an effort to protect us against malicious threats. This level of vulnerability, Mr. Speaker, is not acceptable. Accordingly, Mr. Speaker, I have instructed that a comprehensive audit and assessment plan be prepared and implemented to determine the current state of vulnerability of all government websites and systems. Mr. Speaker, this time next year, we will table a new ICT Act, Mr. Speaker. We have talked about it for long enough. This administration, Mr. Speaker, will make it happen. A key component of this new act, Mr. Speaker, will be the creation of a single ICT regulator. Mr. Speaker, with increased use of technology and use of electronic methods of storing data, we must ensure that the personal information of the people of Jamaica is safe and secure. Mr. Speaker, the protection of our information is a right, not a privilege. And so, Mr. Speaker, we will ensure that that this time next year we will have in place a Data Protection Act to ensure that we protect the information of our citizens, that whoever are the users or the gatekeepers of our citizens' information, that they know that they have a responsibility to safeguard that information. Mr. Speaker, time is short. And so, Mr. Speaker, I move quickly to the closing, because my colleagues are very anxious, but you have the document before you. Mr. Speaker, this government is about business. We have hit the ground running at the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology. We recognize that the people of Jamaica are impatient of administrative dithering, missed opportunities, and announcements with little or no actual result or tangible outcome to show for it. Mr. Speaker, the people want government that works. Yes. And we are giving them precisely that, Mr. Speaker. They want leaders who will serve them and work in their interests in bringing the increased economic growth, job creation and prosperity they deserve and have been awaiting. Mr. Speaker, that is precisely what we are working to deliver. Mr. Speaker, at the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology, we are setting the stage for sustained reductions in the cost of electricity. We are setting the stage, Mr. Speaker, for even greater diversification of our energy mix. We are setting the stage, Mr. Speaker, for a cleaner, healthier environment through the use of renewable energy. We have set a mechanism, Mr. Speaker, to militate against bad gas and facilitate redress to our consumers. We are setting, Mr. Speaker, the foundation for a more harmonized and effective ICT regulatory environment. Mr. Speaker, we are setting the stage for increased innovation and employment for our people through ICT. Mr. Speaker, we are setting the stage for more effective leveraging of our national potential in science. Mr. Speaker, we are setting the stage for increased economic growth, job creation, and prosperity. Mr. Speaker, personal development pioneer Paul Mayer said, and I quote, "Productivity is never an accident. It is always the result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused effort." End of quote. Mr. Speaker, with fixity of purpose and an unwavering commitment to getting the job done on behalf of the people of Jamaica, I am confident that we will achieve what we have set out to achieve. Mr. Speaker, I thank you and I thank this honorable House. May God continue to bless us as a parliament and may continue to bless Jamaica land we love. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.